It's been nearly a week since my last news roundup video for Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and there really hasn't been anything else worth mentioning in terms of new news from Game Freak. However, E3 and the June issue of Koro Koro are nearing us, and there's a few interesting pieces of news and fake gameplay screenshots I've uncovered. As always, my name is P. Winall. Let's jump straight in. The first story I've uncovered from a couple of months ago comes from the Salon del Manga de Barcelona convention in November of last year that the Game Freak director Junichi Masuda attended. He was talking about the impressive sales figures for Pokemon X and Pokemon Y, however reportedly dropped a subtle hint in expressing interest in more Mega Evolutions in future Pokemon games. While I would take this with a grain of salt as Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are remakes of games from 2002 and 2003, this is actually a pretty good, inside forecast at the potential of more Mega Evolutions featuring in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I've kind of expected Game Freak to throw a curveball and there not to be too many Mega Evolutions in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. They just seem like they're from different parts of the timeline and stuff like that. However, Mega Evolutions featured in Pokemon Origins, which was set around the same time as Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, so I think we will be seeing more Mega Evolutions. I'm going to be making more speculation videos over the next couple of weeks, featuring my thoughts on what legendary Pokemon will appear in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, what Mega Evolutions, if there even will be Mega Evolutions that will feature in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. So look forward to more in-depth thoughts over the next couple of days. I think you'll be interested to hear my theories and stuff like that. My next theory that I'm going to throw out there is also from NintendoLife.com and features an interview with, yet again, Junichi Masuda. This is talking about a feature that didn't make it into Pokemon X and Pokemon Y, however, could feature in a future Pokemon game due to some evidence we have from the original Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. And I quote, "But one thing I wanted to put in the game that didn't quite make it was a translating machine for Pokemon cries, to find out what they were saying. So you have this machine, and when a Pokemon cries out something, text would appear telling you exactly what that Pokemon is saying. In Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire in Rustboro City, there was a little room where scientists were talking about what features could potentially appear in future Pokemon games. One of them features that did make a Pokemon game was the Dream Radar in Pokemon Black and Pokemon White, footage you should be seeing on screen of the text people were saying in them games. This is again something that they spoke about in the Devon Corporation in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, so this is obviously something that Junichi Masuda wants to see, and it could feature in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I might just be clutching at straws, but this is a new feature we could see. Finally, today I'd made a habit out of covering full screenshots on the internet and stuff like that, conceptualizing what Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire could look like. Today's images are brought by Rebellious Trico on DeviantArt, and links to his work are in the description. The first screenshot I have for you guys is a conceptualized image of what Little Root Town could look like in these games. These screenshots were made a couple of years ago, before Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire were even announced, but this is pretty interesting. Some of the models aren't 100%, some of them are a little bit glitchy, and the walk up until Route 101 is blocked out by trees once again. However, this does look really interesting. There's a sprite instead of a model for Brendan, and while the games probably won't look like this is actually really well made, and I really like this screenshot. It's not perfect, but I really like it, especially because it's from a couple of years ago. The next image I'm covering conceptualizes is what the Rustboro City Pokemon Gym could look like in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Even though this image wasn't really made with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire in mind, in fact I believe it was made in 2012, so it doesn't apply in the slightest. It just looks awesome in a 3D landscape, and I can't wait to see what Game Freak actually make it look like in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. The gyms in Pokemon X and Pokemon Y, in my personal opinion, looked absolutely amazing, especially the second gym. And yeah, as I said, I just can't wait to see what they look like. This is actually a pretty good insight, a good forecast to what we can expect. And finally for today, I have a conceptualized image of what the champion room could look like in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. This is Champion Steven's room, conceptualized with inspiration from Pokemon Black and Pokemon White, it would seem. This takes inspiration from Meteor Falls and stuff like that, with the meteors flying all over the place. And while I don't think the champion room will really look like this in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, it looks a little bit too Gen 5 in my personal opinion. And I don't even think Steven will be the champion in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I think Wallace will instead. But this does look really good, and some of you guys might disagree with that, but I really like this. I don't know, leave me your opinions in the comments, I guess. I'm genuinely sorry for the lack of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire news videos recently. I don't make the news, I simply cover it, and in between Koro scans there's a lot of dry spots in terms of news. However, you can be sure there will be plenty of news videos next month and in-depth speculation videos about what to expect in these games this upcoming week. As always, 250 likes would be super appreciated on this video for another Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire speculation video tomorrow about my thoughts on what legendary Pokemon will appear in these games. And feel free to subscribe so you don't miss any of my speculation videos. Thank you so much for watching. Now's my time to go, so my name is P. Winnell, and see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.